Mystic Christianity by Yogi Ramacharaka. In our immediately preceding video, we ended with inspiring words of the poet Wordsworth. Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life's star, hath elsewhere had its setting and cometh from afar. Not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our home. Lesson 12, the message of the Master. Running throughout nearly all of the teachings and messages of Jesus is to be found a constant mystic message regarding the existence of the Spirit within the soul of each individual. That something within to which all can turn in time of pain and trouble. That guide and monitor which stands ever ready to counsel, advise, and direct if one opens himself to the voice. Seek ye first the kingdom, and all things shall be added unto you. And again, as if to explain, the kingdom of heaven is within you. This is the mystic message which gives one a key to the mysteries of the inner teachings. Let us take up a few of his sayings and endeavor to interpret them by the light of these teachings. But before doing so, we must call the attention of the student to the fact that, in order to understand intelligently what we are saying, he must carefully reread the 14 lessons in Yogi philosophy, wherein the details of the teachings are set forth. That is, the fundamental truths are explained. In the advanced course and in Jnana Yoga, the higher phases of the teachings are presented. And although in said works there is little or no reference made to Christianity, yet the teachings are so fundamental that the inner teachings of all religions, including Christianity, may be understood by one who has acquainted himself with these fundamental truths. There is but one real occult philosophy, and we find it in evidence everywhere. Once the truth is grasped, it is found to be the master key with which to unlock the various doors leading to the esoteric phase of any and all religions or philosophies. The Yogi Fathers, centuries and centuries ago, solved the riddle of the universe, and the highest efforts of the human mind since that time have but corroborated, proven, and exemplified the original truth as voiced by these venerable sages. Let's read the words of Jesus in the light of this ancient wisdom. Let's consider the Sermon on the Mount, as given in Matthew, chapters 5, 6, and 7. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:3. By these words, Jesus indicated the occult teachings that those who renounced the vain glory and petty ambitions of this world would be on the road to the realization of the real self, the something within, the Spirit. For is it not written that the kingdom of heaven is within you? Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Matthew 5:4. By these words, Jesus pointed out the occult teachings that those who have so far advanced that they could see the folly of human ambition, and who consequently felt the pain that comes to all who stand above the crowd, and who mourned by reason of the realization of the folly and uselessness of all for which men strive so hard, would in the end be comforted by that peace which passeth all understanding, which comes only to those who enter into a realization of the kingdom of heaven which is within them. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Matthew 5:5. By these words, Jesus taught to teach that those who had acquired the attitude of obedience to the power of the Spirit within them would become as masters of the things of earth. This message is frequently misunderstood by reason of the lack of perception of the mystic meaning contained in the words. The word meek does not mean that I'm so meek and humble attitude and expression of the hypocritical followers of form. Jesus never taught this. He never acted it. He was always the master and never sought to make of his followers, cringing creatures and whining and sniveling supplicants. He asserted his mastery in many ways and accepted the respect due to him. As for instance, when the vial of precious ointment was poured upon him, his use of the word, which has been poorly translated as meek, was in the sense of a calm, dignified bearing toward the power of the Spirit, and a reverent submission to its guidance, not a hypocritical and cowardly meekness toward other men. The assurance that such would inherit the earth means that they should become masters of things temporal. That is, that they should be able to rise above them, should become lords of the earth by reason of their entering into the kingdom of heaven within them. Blessed are they that hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Matthew 5:6. This is the promise of the Master, that they who sought the kingdom of heaven within them should find it, that their spiritual hunger and thirst should be satisfied in the only way possible. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Matthew 5:7. Here is taught the blessing for forbearance, kindness, tolerance, and absence of bigotry, and the reward that comes as a natural consequence of such a mental attitude. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Matthew 5:8. Well, here is the assurance that to those who are pure, all things are pure. That the purity of one's own heart and the recognition of the God within leads us to a perception of the God within everything. He who sees God within himself sees him in everything, says an old Persian writer. And verily, such a one sees God where he abides, and that is everywhere. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Matthew 5:9. Here is the call to the disciple to use his wisdom and power in the direction of remedying the strife that arises from the differing conceptions of deity and truth prevailing among men. He who is able to point out the truth underlying all religions and beliefs indeed becomes as a beloved Son of God. He who is able to show that under all forms and ceremonies, under various names and titles, behind various creeds and dogmas, there is but one God, to whom all worship ascends, he is a peacemaker and a son of God. Blessed are they who have been persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall reproach you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they the prophets that were before you. Matthew 5:10-12. In these words, Jesus sought to comfort and encourage those who would be called upon to carry the message in the centuries to follow. And one has but to look over the list of names of the courageous souls who have sought to keep the flame alight, to preserve the teachings in their original purity, to protect them from the cant, hypocrisy, self-seeking, formalism of those who sought and obtained places of power in the church. The gibbet, the stake, the dungeon, that was their reward. But the faith that was called into manifestation during the persecution served to bring them to the realization of the Spirit, and thus indeed theirs is the kingdom of heaven. But ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt hath lost its savor, wherein shall it be salted? Or wherewith shall it be salted? It is henceforth good for nothing, and to be cast out and trodden under foot of men. Matthew 5:13. Well, here Jesus warned against the failure of the illumined to serve as the yeast, which should leaven the mass of men by their thoughts and actions. The use of the term salt in this connection is familiar to all students of ancient mysticism. Food without salt was deemed unpalatable and undesirable. The few were the salt of the earth, designed to render it worthy and perfect as a whole. But where a grain of salt had parted with its savor, there was naught else that could impart saltiness to it, and it became worthless and fit only for the refuse heap. The duty of the salt is to impart savor. The duty of the elect is to impart savor to the race of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a lamp and put it under a bushel, but on the stand, and it shineth unto all that are in the house. Even so let your light shine before men, that they may seek your good work, they may see your good works, and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Matthew 5:14 through 16. Will these words, like those preceding, teach the elect to shed abroad the light which has come to them? They are warned against concealing it beneath the cover of conventional conduct, but are urged to live and act so that men may perceive the light that is within them, the light of the Spirit, and may see the right road by means of its rays. A man having the light of the Spirit shining bright within him is able to rouse the lamps of understanding in the minds of other men, to become kindled and alight. That is the experience of the majority of those who read these words. They have had their lamps of knowledge kindled by the rays of the Spirit emanating from some soul, either by word of mouth, writings, or by personal contact. Spirituality is contagious, therefore spread it. This is the meaning of this passage. Think not that I have come to destroy the law of prophets. I came not to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass away, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass away from the law till all things be accomplished. Matthew 5:17 and 18. In this passage, Jesus positively asserted the fact that he was not teaching a new doctrine, but had come simply to carry on the work of those who had preceded him. He asserted the validity of the ancient wisdom and told that the law that had been in force would so continue until heaven and earth should pass away. That is, until the end of this great world cycle. In these words, Jesus proclaimed his allegiance to the occult teaching. To those who would claim that he referred to the current Jewish teachings would point out the fact that these he did come to destroy. For Christianity is opposed to the Jewish formalism and the outer teachings, but Jesus referred to the inner teachings, not to the outer religious creeds or forms. He came not to destroy the old teachings, but merely to fulfill, that is, to give a new impetus to the ancient wisdom. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, ye shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:19 and 20. Well, here Jesus cautions against violating the fundamental occult teachings, or of teaching false doctrines. He also again bids men to do and to preach the truth. Note the reference to the kingdom of heaven. Again, he points out that the righteousness required to gain the kingdom of heaven is a far different thing from the formalism, ceremonialism, and the churchism of the scribes and the Pharisees. People who, in that day, stood for that which the churchy preachers and their bigoted, narrow flock of sheep-like parishioners stand for today. It requires more than faithful performance of church duties to enter into the real kingdom of heaven. Jesus was ever a foe of the narrow formalism which clings close to the empty forms and words, and which ignores the Spirit. Were he to return today, he would drive from the temples the horde of money-making preachers and hypocritical followers who make a mock of sacred things. Ye have heard that it was said to them of old time, Thou shalt not kill. And whoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you that every one who is angry with his brother shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council. And whosoever shall say, Thou fool, shall be in danger of the hell of fire. If therefore thou art offering thy gift at the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Agree with thine adversary quickly, while thou art with him, lest haply thine adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Verily I say unto ye, unto thee, thou shalt by no means come out thence till thou hast paid the last farthing. Matthew 5:21 through 26. Well, these verses emphasize the teachings that sin consists not only of deeds and actions performed, but equally of thoughts and desires entertained and encouraged in the mind. The desire and thought made welcome in the mind of a person is the seed and the germ of the sin or the crime, even though they may never be manifested in action. To wish to kill is a sin, just as is the deed of killing. This is an old occult teaching imparted to all candidates for initiation. Ye have heard that it was said, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you that every one that looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. And if thy right eye causeth thee to stumble, pluck it out, cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members shall perish, and not thy whole body be cast into hell. And if thy right hand causeth thee to offend, cut it off, and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members shall perish, and not thy whole body go into hell. It was said also, Whosoever put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. But I say unto you that every one that putteth away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, maketh her an adulteress. And whosoever shall marry her when she is put away, committeth adultery. Matthew 5:27 through 32. In this passage, Jesus expressed the abhorrence of all advanced occultists for the abuse of the functions of sex. Not only the act, but the thought behind the act was condemned by him. The advanced occult teaching is that the function of the sex organization is entirely that of procreation. Aught else is a perversion of nature. Jesus speaks in strong words to men and women in this passage regarding this question. The concluding portion of the passage is a condemnation of the abuse of the marriage relation and the privilege of divorce, which was being strongly agitated in his time. He aimed a blow at the careless contracting of marriages and the consequent careless dissolution of the tie. Jesus believed in the sacredness of the home life and of the welfare of the family. His utterance on this subject is unmistakably clear and forcible. Again, ye have heard that it was said to them of old time, Thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by the heaven, for it is the throne of God, nor by the earth, for it is the footstool of his feet, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, for thou canst not make one hair white or black. But let your speech be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatever is more than these is of the evil one. Matthew 5:33 through 37. Here Jesus attacks the custom of swearing, which was so prevalent in his time among the Jews and other Oriental peoples. He urges simplicity and moderation of speech. In this he is true to the occult traditions, which teach the value of simple thought and simple speech to all the initiates and the neophytes. Ye have heard that it was said, An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, resist not him that is evil, but whosoever smiteth thee on the right cheek, turn to him the other one. And if any man would go to law with thee, and take away thy coat, let him have. And whosoever shall compel thee to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give to him that asketh thee, and from him that would borrow of thee, turn not away. Matthew 5:38 through 42. In this passage, Jesus alludes to the law of non-resistance, which in its esoteric aspect is fully understood by all initiates. This law is for application on the mental plane. And those who understand it know that the precepts refer to the mental attitude of the initiates toward others, which attitude is in itself a defense against imposition. Love turneth away hate and anger. The high thought neutralizes the evil designs of others. Ye have heard that it was said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies and pray for them that persecute you, that ye may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sendeth rain on the just and the unjust. For if ye love them that love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? And if ye salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even the Gentiles the same? Ye therefore shall be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Matthew 5:43-48. Here is taught that broad tolerance, charity, and love that form such an important part of all the mystic teachings. It is a doctrine entirely at variance with the orthodox idea of tolerance only to those who agree with one, or who may live in accordance with one's own life views and conduct. It is a great broad doctrine of human brotherhood. Jesus teaches that God's love is bestowed upon all, the just and the unjust, and that his perfect love is the aim and goal of all who desire to attain the kingdom of spirit. Take heed that ye do not your righteousness before men to be seen of them, else ye have no reward with your Father who is in heaven. When, therefore, thou doest alms, sound not a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have received their reward. But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father who seeth in secret shall recompense thee. Matthew 6:1-4. This is another denunciation of ostentatious churchiness and goodness and religious posing. It's a lesson needed as much today as in the time of Jesus. And when ye pray, ye shall not be as the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have received their reward. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thine inner chamber, and having shut thy door, pray to thy Father who is in secret, and thy Father who seeth in secret shall recompense thee. And in praying, use not vain repetitions as the Gentiles do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. Be not therefore like unto them, for your Father knoweth what things ye have need of, before ye ask him. After this manner therefore pray ye. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so on earth. And give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And bring us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For if ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Matthew 5-15. Here are the words of Jesus regarding the subject of prayer. He cautions against the ostentatious exhibition of piety, or piety, whichever you prefer. So prevalent in all churches, in all lands, in all times. He bids one approach the Father in a reverent spirit, devoid of all public notice. Then he gives to his disciples the famous Lord's Prayer, in which is condensed a wealth of true religious instruction and precept. This glorious prayer needs no special interpretation. Let all students read the words themselves, filled with the realization of the Spirit, and each will receive a message fitted to his requirements and development. The Lord's Prayer is a very arcanum of the mystic message. Moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may be seen of men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have received their reward. But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thy head and wash thy face, that thou be not seen of men to fast, but of thy Father who is in secret, and thy Father who seeth in secret shall recompense thee. Matthew 6:16 through 18. This is a caution against the sanctimonious attitude and pose assumed by certain good people of the churches, who would make a display of their adherence to and observation of forms and observance of forms even. Jesus, as a true mystic, detested all religious posing and neglected no opportunities to condemn the same. Lay not up yourselves treasures upon the earth, where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourself treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor dust doth consume, and where thieves do not break through and steal. For where thy treasure is, there will be thy heart also. The lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Therefore I say unto you, be not anxious for your life, what ye shall eat, what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what ye shall put on it. Is not the life more than the food, and the body more than the raiment? Behold the birds of the heaven, that they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, and your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are not ye of much more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add 1 cubit unto the measure of his life? And why are ye anxious concerning raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. Yet I say unto you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothed the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is cast into the oven, shall he not much more clothe you, ye of little faith? Be not therefore anxious, saying, what shall we eat? What shall we drink? Wherewithal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things, but seek ye first then his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Be not therefore anxious for the morrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Matthew 6:19 through 34. Well, this is the most remarkable passage in the New Testament. It is the most remarkable saying of Jesus of Nazareth. In it is condensed the whole of the occult teachings regarding the conduct of life. It condenses in a few lines the entire doctrine of karma yoga, that branch of yogi philosophy. It forms a veritable epitome of that which has been styled the new thought, as taught and expounded by its various cults and schools. There was no need of one reading and studying the various metaphysical sciences, so to speak, which have sprung into such favor of late years, if one will but read, ponder, study, and practice the precepts of this wonderful passage of the Sermon on the Mount. Every sentence is a gem, a crystal of the highest mystic and occult philosophy. Book after book could be written on this one passage, and even then the subject would be but merely approached. The doctrine of single-mindedness toward the Spirit and things of the Spirit is taught. The folly of being tied to material things is pointed out. The lesson of non-attachment is forcibly put. But the great truth expounded in this passage is the power of faith. Faith is the great secret of all occult teachings and is the key to its inner mysteries. Faith is the master key that unlocks the doors of the castle of attainment. We trust that all students of these lessons will take this single passage from the Sermon on the Mount and memorize it. Make it a part of yourself. Make it a part of your life. Make it your rule of action and living. The life taught by this passage is the true life of the Spirit. Here is the true light on the path for the guidance of the feet of all mystics and occultists. Judge not, that ye not be judged, or that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured unto you. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me cast out the mote out of thine eye, and lo, the beam is in thine own eye? Thou hypocrite, cast out first the beam out of thy own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote of thy brother's eye. Matthew 7, 1 through 5. And here Jesus deals another powerful blow to the self-righteous and of the Pharisaical, good people of the sects, the creeds, the cults of all lands, times, and religions. He warns against that "thank God I am holier than thou" attitude that so many vain formalists affect in their dealings with other men. In these immortal words, Jesus has sent ringing down the eons of time a scathing rebuke to the hypocritical judges of other men. Those men who wish to reform others to conform to their own standards. Out of the mouth of their master are many so-called followers rebuked. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast your pearls before the swine, lest haply they trample them under their feet and turn and rend you. Matthew 7:6. Here's a warning to initiates. A warning to initiates not to spread out a feast of their highest teachings to the mob, who with swinish instincts would defile the divine feast and tear to pieces those who had spread it for them. The truth of this warning has been attested by the fate of those glorious souls who, disregarding it, attempted to give the truth to the animal minds of the mob and who were done to death for their folly. Even Jesus himself met his fate from neglecting this very rule, for allowing his sympathy to overcome his judgment. Ask and it shall be given you, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. For every one that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Or what man is there of you, who if his son ask him for a loaf, would give him a stone? Or if he shall ask for a fish, would give him a serpent? If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father who is in heaven give good things to them that ask him? All things therefore, whatsoever ye would that men should do unto you, even so do ye also unto them. For this is the law and the prophecy. Matthew 7, 7 through 12. Well, here's another burning message to men to live by the light of faith in the Spirit. And a warning that unless one would act toward other men rightly, he could not expect to be dealt with rightly. It is the lesson of sowing and reaping, a lesson of the law of karma. Jesus is most emphatic in these statements. He does not alone say, do this, do that. He states emphatically, this is the law, and so it is. Men are punished by their wrong deeds, not for them. Enter ye in by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many are they that enter in thereby. For narrow is the gate, and straitened the way that leadeth unto life, and few are they that find it. Matthew 7, 13 and 14. Well, this is the highest occult teaching. How few are they who find their way to realization of their own divinity? Narrow indeed is the gate, and straitened the way that leadeth to the goal. The masses follow the broad path like fools, but few even see the narrow entrance to the path. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravening wolves. By their fruits ye shall know them. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but the corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not fruit, bringeth not forth good fruit, good grief. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Therefore by thy fruits ye shall know them. Not every one that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of the Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy by thy name? Prophesy by thy name, and by thy name cast out demons, and by thy name do many mighty works. And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Matthew 7:15 through 23. Well, here is the notable warning against the perverted use of the occult powers. The prostitution of the gifts of the Spirit. Black magic, in short. For as all well know, the occult forces may be applied to the base as well as worthy uses. By their fruits shall ye know the good from the evil. He whose teachings render men weak, sheep-like, and cringing, credulous leaners upon leaders, is a tree that bringeth forth evil fruit. Such are wolves in sheep's clothing, who fatten upon the bodies, substance, and souls of their dupes. But those who lead men to be men, yea, supermen, bring forth the good fruit of the Spirit. Be ye not deceived by names, words, creeds, nor claims. Nay, not even by miracles. Look always at the effect produced, the fruits of the tree, and govern yourself accordingly. Every one, therefore, that heareth these words of mine and doeth them shall be likened unto a wise man who built his house upon the rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon the rock. And every one that heareth these words of mine and doeth them shall be likened unto a foolish man who built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and smote upon that house, and it fell. And great was the fall thereof. Matthew 7:24 through 27. Well, in these parting words of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus gave a message to all who would hear or read his words and profess to be his followers. He bade such build upon the eternal rock of the truth, the rock of ages, that had its foundations in the very principles of being. He warned them against building upon the shifting sands of theology and dogmatism, which would be surely swept away by the storms of time. Upon the eternal mystic truths is mystic Christianity founded. And it is still standing untouched by the storms of criticism, opposition, and knowledge that have swept away many theological edifices in the past, and which are now beating with renewed vigor upon the remaining frail structures, which are even this day quivering under the strain. Mystic Christianity invites the new theology, so to speak, the higher criticism, the criticism of science, for these will only tend to prove the truths of its fundamental principles. In mystic Christianity, religion, philosophy, and science are known to be one and the same thing. There is no conflict between science and religion, philosophy and religion, or philosophy and science. They are all but names for one truth. There is but one truth. There cannot be more than one. And so call it by the name of religion, the name of science, the name of philosophy. It doesn't matter, for the same thing is meant. There is naught but truth. Nothing else really exists. All that is not truth is illusion, Maya, nothing. And mystic Christianity is based upon the rock of truth, fearing not the winds nor the storms that try out the stability of all structures of thought. Like its founder, it has always existed, always will exist, from the beginning to the endless ending. The same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And now, Good friends and students with whom we have trodden together the path of knowledge, we have endeavored to pass on to you the words that we ourselves had received from those who had gone before us on the path. Conscious of our own limitations, we have ventured to cast abroad the seeds of truth, hoping that some would find lodgment in the hearts and minds of at least a few who would read our words. And now that our task is completed, we feel sad at the thought that only here and there will there be a mental and spiritual growth springing forth from our seed to bring a later blossom and fruit. This is the sadness of all teachers, to know that the task is largely a futile one. That of thousands of seeds scattered, but a few will even bear matured fruit. But still, there is compensation in the thought that even one or two or a dozen will have afforded lodgment to the spiritual seed and given to it the mental soil that would enable it to grow strong and manifest blossom and fruit. Behold, the sower went forth to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. And others fell upon the rocky places where they had not much earth, and straightway they sprang up because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was risen, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And others fell upon the thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. And others fell upon good ground and yielded fruit, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He that hath ears, let him hear. Matthew 8, 3-8. Mystic Christianity by Yogi Ramacharaka.